Hello, and thanks for joining me on this episode of Simply Saturday. Today we'll be making a card that is fast and easy to make. If you've watched the last couple episodes, we did some Halloween things, and when this particular episode airs, we will just be short of the official start of fall or autumn. And so I'm excited to show you that I'm doing some Thanksgiving or some fall things. This is the stamp set that I'll be using today, Gathering Moments. We'll also be using the coordinating dies, one of them. There are a bunch of them, but we will be using one today. And the paper, which is called Gathering Together. Here's a little sneak peek at some of those papers. I recently did a reel on Facebook and took you through all of the papers, so I won't take the time to do that right now. We're using these really nice embellishments that are called Cajun Craze and Gold Dots. Let's use those. I'll be using 3 ink colors, Cajun Craze, Crushed Curry, and Pecan Pie. Now, this piece is the coordinating embossing folder. And the card that I'm going to show you right now that's fast and easy, we do not incorporate this. However, at the end, I'll show you a card where I did use this, and you can decide if you want to step it up a little bit on your version. All right, something that I will not be using today are these other large dies. We're using one of the small leaf dies, but these are perforated when you die cut them, so that if you wish, you can use some twine or some linen thread even, or embroidery floss to thread that. So I haven't played with that yet, but that is a possibility, and it's something that coordinates with this suite of products. Here's a couple colors of twine that coordinate, and we will probably be using the brown one. All right, let me mention real quick that one of the colors in this paper is Early Espresso, and I started out trying to use some of my stamps with my Early Espresso pad, and for some reason it just did not look good at all. It was coming out looking like a poor version of a black ink pad, and so I wasn't happy with it at all. I changed directions midstream, and I'm gonna have to investigate why my Early Espresso ink pad does not look right. So I'm using Pecan Pie, which is not listed as one of the colors in the paper, but it definitely goes with it, and I think that it looks great. All right, let's talk about our pieces. So I'm going to start with a card base of crushed curry that measures 5.5 inches by 6.5 inches. So it's a little bit shorter on the length. And then we've got a score line here at 4.25. So that's going to be our card base. We have a white piece that's 4 inches by 5.25 inches. That piece is going to be the inside panel. We have a piece of Cajun Craze that's 3 inches by 4.25 inches. This piece is going to make a unique little flap on the front. I've got my piece of Designer Series paper, 2.75 inches by 4 inches. That's the piece that's going to decorate the Cajun Craze area. I have one more strip of Designer Series paper that is 3/4 inch by 5.25, and this piece is going to get glued onto the inside. You can see where this is going. It's just beautiful. You'll need a piece of white. I went ahead and die cut it. I used Nested Essentials, and I used the second size down of the rounded rectangle. And then I have a scrap for the leaf that I'm going to stamp and die cut out. Aside from showing you a version with and without the embossing folder, I'm also going to show you a version with and without stamping on this piece. Okay, or stamping the leaf on this piece, I should say. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and attach my large piece of Designer Series paper to the Cajun Craze background. And the print of this paper is pretty much non-directional. However, once you start cutting it down into smaller pieces, like I have, you might find that a mushroom looks better in one direction than another. I don't know. I think it's kind of non-directional. The leaves are going every which way. But you might want to take notice just in case the one little spot on there, you don't want it to look upside down. So if you want to flip it over. Now I say that, this is going to get covered with another piece, so it might not matter at all. Okay, this strip is going to get glued onto here, which I am going to go ahead and do. Now I'm not going to glue the white piece inside yet because I want to complete my stamping on this piece first, just in case I don't have any mistakes or things that I want to change. What happens if you glue your inside into the card, then you make a mistake on this, now you've lost all of these pieces. So that's what I recommend. But I do want this strip on there because it's going to give me a little bit of a guide of where to do my stamping. So that, I guess, would be up to you if you want to add your strip at this point or not until after. But I am going to go ahead and put it on. And I'm lining it up with the very edge of the white paper. In fact, I'm going to flip it over this way, make sure that it's lined up evenly here, and it is. And then if there's any sticking out on the top or the bottom, which I've got a hair, it's a hair long, so I'm just going to take my scissors and trim that nice and straight. All right, that's easy. Okay, so we're going to do our stamping on this piece. I think before I do that, I'll go ahead and use my bone folder to make this a nice crease. All right, so we're going to do our stamping, and I'm going to start with this leaf and my Cajun Craze. Now, often on the inside of a card, I would stamp on this bottom corner or maybe something up here. This is going to be very unique because we're going to do our stamping right across the middle of the inside. So if you follow this design, then of course when you send your card to the recipient, you're going to have a split message because you're going to have white space above the stamping and white space below the stamping. I think it's fun to kind of mix it up. So I'm going to do 2 of these, and I'm aiming for this center here right across the middle of my white piece. So 1 there and 1 here. That looks beautiful. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is add this little thing. This is what I tried with my early espresso, and it just didn't look good. Again, the problem is my ink pad. I probably need to replace it or re-ink it. So using pecan pie instead, I'm just going to drop this little beauty right in between those leaves. And then since I'm using the pecan pie, let's stamp our words at this point as well. And it also is just going to slip right in here. I love that tiny script font. Oh my gosh, that looks so good. And then we're going to use our crushed curry for the mushroom. And it's just going to fit in here and drop a little bit below, like so. Isn't that fun? Just stamping right across the middle of the page. Very fun. Okay, this piece can now go inside the card because we are happy with it. And I'm just looking around, centering it best I can, and getting that into place. All right. The next thing that I'm going to do is attach this little flap to the front of the card, and I'm going to go ahead and move it way over to the left, right here to the fold in the cardstock. And if done correctly, because it's the same width as my card, it's going to go all the way to the edge of this side. Okay, like that. Now, one thing I want to do is I want to make sure that I get my adhesive in the right place so that I don't accidentally glue my card shut. So what we can do is just flip this over, still put it right in the position where it's going to go, and then just make a little pencil mark. Now I know that my adhesive needs to be on this side only, and stopping at the pencil mark. So you could use your multi-purpose glue here. You could use some tear and tape if you prefer. It doesn't matter, just whatever you're comfortable with. But that little pencil mark is going to help me know to not go over too far. Okay, now, as we pause right here, this is the spot that I'm going to show you an alternative where that embossing folder comes in. All right, so we'll talk about that. Also, what would be fun is to maybe just do tone on tone stamping. So use your crushed curry and one of the other stamps in this stamp set. Like, I'll show you what I'm talking about because we're going to cover it up. You might want to do something like this and stamp a print all over this yellow piece that would show. That would be a nice idea too. To keep it fast and easy, we're not going to do that. So I'm just going to cover that up and get our piece in place. All right, there we have that. Now let's move to this little piece, and I'm going to stamp Gather with my Cajun Craze, and we're going to experience one of those moments. I have Amazon coming to my door right now. We'll see if he rings, then my dog Pino is going to go crazy. If he doesn't ring, nope, he didn't ring. All right, then she is none the wiser. Sometimes, honestly, she is so smart and her ears are so good that she will sometimes hear someone coming to the door even if they don't ring. So Pino and Cabby are both napping as I'm stamping. All right, I did that in Cajun Craze. Now, to make this super fast and easy, what I would do is I would ink up my larger leaf stamp with my crushed curry, and I would just go ahead and stamp it onto this tag. All right, that's going to be the fastest, easiest way. Then there's no more die cutting involved. But I am going to die cut. So I'm going to stamp my leaf instead on a scrap. I'd like to give you those little clues because I kind of want to show you the card that I really want to show you, but I also want to make sure that it's fast and easy for it to fit in our Simply Saturday mode. All right, so that leaf could just be stamped here, and the Gather is dark enough that it would be fine if it overlapped. Okay, there's the stamp. Now, just to save time, I went ahead and did that and used the die and die cut it out. All right, you can see how that goes on there. Run through the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, and you get a lovely die cut. All right, so now I'm going to take this and turn it this way, and it's just going to anchor right on the very edge of this piece. So I think I'll put this on the card first to figure out my placement, and then we'll add the leaf. All right, I'm going to put this on with my green glue, and then we're going to pop the leaf up to give it a little bit of dimension. So let's get this into place. And we'll go ahead and get some Stampin' Dimensionals out. I have a whole bunch of minis here, so we're just going to use some minis. You could definitely use the regular size, but in my little work drawer right here, I've got about 4 or 5 of these sheets of minis that are readily available to be used, so we're going to use them. All right, there's my leaf. And we'll go ahead. A lot of times I don't like to just pull these off onto the glass. I know I'm picky, but it's because when I go to move them, sometimes they stick, see? So what I typically do is I hold this little piece with the dimensionals off camera because I'm peeling the backings off right into my trash can. That's silly, huh? But it helps me keep my workspace tidy. All right, this leaf is going to go, I want it really onto this tag, but I don't want to cover my R, so I'm going to get as close as I can as long as you can read that that says gather, and you can. All right, there's that. Let's get a little piece. Okay, this is the Early Espresso Baker's Twine. These come together as a combo pack with Old Olive, and I cut a length of it, oh, I don't know, about 10 inches, and went ahead and made a bow. I'm gonna take my bow and attach it with a little glue dot here. All right, this is gonna go right here, just below my leaf. Squish it down into that glue. And then I think I'll just trim these a teeny bit. I don't mind if it's kind of hanging off, because when it goes in the envelope, it's not gonna hurt anything. So I'm not gonna cut it too short, but I am gonna trim it a teeny bit. All right, like that. I want to leave enough tail that it doesn't look funny. Okay, let's use our embellishments to finish this, and then I will show you what you could do with that embossing folder. All right, I'm going to use 3 of these, and I'll just use 3 different sizes. So I think I'll use a larger one down and a medium one. And a baby one. And the little bit of gold fleck in those is just lovely. So it really brings this to life and gives it that little bit of sparkle. And there we have our fast and easy fall themed card. Ah, I love the stamping right across the middle. I'm going to keep coming back to the idea, I think. All right, let me show you. If you had preferred, okay, to take this up one more level, you could take another piece of crushed curry cardstock. This piece is 2 inches by 5 1/4 inches. Put it into the embossing folder. Of course, I've already done mine, but you're going to lay that cardstock into your embossing folder. Put it through your Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, hinge first, and then you end up with this yummy fall-themed texture with those little branches or leaves. And what I would do is I would have put it onto this part of the card before attaching my Cajun Craze part. So roughly it would look like that. Let me see, I have an extra piece here. And then this would be over it like that. Oh my gosh, look at that yummy texture. Now, I do have one that I finished, but instead of doing this as a separate part, I just put my cardstock into the embossing folder and ran it through. The problem with that is directionally, when that goes in, it won't fit through the machine, obviously, because I'm way too wide. So this piece had to get turned like that. And then this was the final result. So my texture, although pretty, and I will probably still use this card to send to a friend, but because it's going sideways, it's not my favorite. So to avoid that, take a separate piece of cardstock. That way you can place it into the embossing folder with the correct orientation, and then it goes onto your card before you add that finished flap, like so. All right, kind of fun. I hope that you like that. I'm going to turn off the camera and go ahead and finish a card using this piece because I think it's going to look really good that way. All right, that is what I have for you today for our Fast and Easy card. Be sure and check back next Saturday when I bring another Fast and Easy card to you here on Simply Saturday. And as I always do, I'll put some helpful information for you below this video in the description box. And until next time, happy stamping.